Good afternoon. Welcome to the CI Tools webinar. My name is Josh Osborne and I'm the product manager for the CI Tools here at Central Innovation, and this is our weekly webinar where we look at stuff to do with the CI Tools. This week we're going to be finishing off looking at the coverings tool. So this is the third part of our coverings coverage. We looked at wall coverings first week, roof coverings last week, and this week we're going to look at covering styles as well as column and slab coverings. So we'll be going through that today. I'm using ArchiCAD 28, but most of what we're going to be covering is stuff that will work in older versions of ArchiCAD and the tool as well. So if you're using some ArchiCAD version that was released in the last 3 years or so, it will look roughly similar to what we're seeing here. If you have any questions as we go through the webinar today, please just enter those in the chat panel and I will check on those towards the end. And if there's any questions in there that I can answer while we're live, I will do so. And also, if you have any suggestions for future webinar topics, please either send those through in the chat while we're going, or send them through to our support desk later on as suggestions, and that'll make its way through to me to look at. I think that's all of the housekeeping out of the way. So yeah, let's jump into the coverings tool. So as I mentioned, we've looked at wall coverings and roof coverings, and what we're going to look at first of all today is the styles and coverings. So as you may know, or as you may have seen in some of the previous webinars, you may have noticed it there. One of the things that the coverings tool allows you to do is to use styles, and these are kind of similar to favorites in that they will allow you to preset a range of settings that you want, and then have those apply to whatever coverings you want to use them for, so you don't have to you don't have to manually specify a whole bunch of different settings every time, especially if you're doing the same thing often. The reason that we use these rather than just using favorites is there's a couple of reasons actually, but the main one is that it will allow us to set preset styles more granularly. So we'll see that in a moment when I show you to it. But essentially it will allow us to specify a remembered style for chunks of settings rather than all of the settings at once. So you can break it up into sort of modular pieces that way. So first of all, I will start with a roof style, since we're looking at a roof at the moment. So if I select this roof here and go into the settings, switch to the normal detail view here. And as we've looked at in the previous webinars, in each of these settings we have settings for the item itself and various parameters. So we have the parameters for the dimensions and that sort of thing, as well as the building material that's applied and that sort of thing. But all of the time when we've been looking at, there's also been this part along the top here. It just says choose for us at the moment because we're not using a style currently, but this is how we interact with that system. So I'm going to flip back to claddings because we will work with a cladding style. And at the moment you can see that all of my settings are grayed out. So I can't modify, I can't change away from tiles. I'm stuck with tiles at the moment. I can't change the size of my tiles or anything like that. And the reason for that is because we're using a tile style. As you can see at the top here, it is called new tiles at the moment. And one of the sort of reasons for using styles, and again this is different to favorites, is that once you choose a style to use, it will lock the tool to that style. So if you're just working by yourself and you often want to make changes to them on the fly, you can still modify them as you go, but this is particularly useful when you have a certain setup of cladding that you want to use and you don't want people to accidentally change to something different, or you don't want yourself to accidentally change to something different. So it will lock those down so that it's always giving you exactly what the style says it should be. And if you want to make changes to that, you have to consciously go in and say, I'm not using this style anymore, I want to do something different. So New tiles is set at the moment. If I open out this list, you'll see there's a variety of styles available though that we can use. So we can switch to new shingle, and you'll see that everything will change to shingle. It's still locked, so I still can't modify any of the settings because I'm still locked to that style, but it'll allow us to switch between styles. Now if we want to modify one of these, so say we look at this style here and we realize that using a bright red and a bright yellow for the tiles is probably not the best idea, we can just edit the style by clicking the edit button here. And that will open up all of the fields and we can go through and make changes. So we can swap out the colors of those. Let's go for golden beige and sienna sand. For those tiles, they actually look identical, but anyway, make those changes and we'll hit save, and now our new shingle goes back to being locked because we are now, again, we're not in editing mode and we are still defining ourselves by this style, and we can go ahead and apply that and it will give us the changed roof covering there. So you can see it's switched to that. You can actually see the slight difference between the two colors. But yeah, so it gives us a nice easy way of swapping in between other things. And as you may have also noticed that when I chose that other style, so if I go back, we've got our shingles at the moment. If I switch back to new tiles instead and go OK, obviously our shingles will turn into tiles. I said that the right way around, but none of the other items were affected. So the flashings have stayed the same. The gutters have stayed the same, all of the other aspects have stayed the same, and that is the granularity that I mentioned before, because we can have a different, we use a different style to define the flashings and the gutters and that sort of thing. So it means you can easily swap in and out component parts as you want to. If I go back into the settings for this one, the other option that you can have if you don't want to use styles, so this is the way that generally you would use any object in Archicad, is that you would essentially go through and make changes on the fly to whatever you want to, and you don't need to worry about what you're going to switch to, but it also means you have to make every change manually yourself. And if you do want to work with it that way, which there's nothing wrong with that, of course, I'm not saying that, you can't do that. If you want to do that, just click this button down the bottom here. It says cancel style and unlock settings. So we're effectively saying, I don't want to use styles at all. And that will unlock everything and go back to essentially normal operation, which is what I've been doing when I've been showing you how this tool works up till now. So we can change anything that we want. However, this won't carry across to any other object or anything like that. We are just locally setting these parameters here. And then if I go into any of these other tabs, you'll see that the same sort of thing is happening. So looking at flashings, we can come in here and we can choose from a couple of different style options, or we can make our own new style. So we go in here and say, let's go with a rolled flashing. And we will make the flashings purple so that we can easily see the change there. And then we just hit the create button. Say I want to create a new style, and we'll call this one purple rolled. So we type in a name for that there, and then hit the save button, and that will save a new flashing style for us. So we can now toggle between the two. That is a old style preset, so I shouldn't have used that one. And then we can switch back to purple rolled, and we'll get our nice new purple rolled style. This applies with all of these settings here as well. So the soffites, the edge boards, the gutters, they will all have the same thing as well. So you can have multiple different options selected in all of those. With the purple rolled selected, I'm just going to hit OK, and you'll see that it applies that style there. But again, it doesn't change the actual cladding because we've modularly changed just the flashing style. If I switch down to the wall now, we can see a similar thing going on here. So up in the top, running across the top, we have a wall cladding style here, and again these are applied in a modular way as well. So at the moment we don't have anything selected, but if we go through and choose board and batten, you can see we have a style here. So it's saved the board and batten cladding type. It's got a certain set out. Interesting choice of angle there, I'm not sure why I did that. And then we have specific building materials selected there as well. And similarly to with the roof, we can edit the style and then resave it, or we can hit the cancel style and unlock button to allow us to essentially do everything custom per element. So you can, if you don't want to use styles, you can effectively just ignore them entirely. And again, working the same as before, if we were to specify that we have some splits going on, we can go into, so this one here, we could set to the Borden, let's go shiplap style. If we go into this one here, this is separate again. So again, with the modularity in this, we're not applying to everything like it would with a favorite or something like that. We can go in and we can choose a different style for this other cladding type. So we can say this should be vinyl weatherboards, and that will do that for us. And then we can go down to the trims and choose how we want to apply those as well. I don't actually have any at the moment, so let's create one of those. Let's put some white paint on that trim. Let's create. Okay, I'll just call that one white rectangular, very imaginative. And now we have a style set for that one, so we can use that whenever we want to as well. So with those changes made, we can hit OK, and it will apply the changes for us. So you can see those, what was it, vinyl weatherboards showing on there. And I don't actually have any, what was it that I set the thing for? Oh, the wall top trim. You can see those sitting over the top of my, over the top there. And also there looks like the change that I selected before, so the split that I selected is showing there as well. Looks like the trim is actually set inside the covering, so you can't see that at the moment, so that was a bad choice, but that will let us apply the styles there as well, and they work in the same way again also. So you can go in and you can say, actually the above opening one, I want to change to logs, if you for some reason want to do that, and it will change just the above opening part, but everything else remains the same. So again, that granularity and modularity to the styles. Now the next thing that you might want to do is when you have a bunch of styles in use in your project, to actually change those. So I've got a couple of different roof coverings here. I'm going to look at these yellow and red ones over here. And this is one of the other strengths of the styles, is that you can make a change to a style and have that flow through to all of the coverings that use it. So if I select this roof covering here, you can see we're using the cladding type new shingle. And if I go to this one here, we're also using new shingle. So they're both sharing the style new shingle. You can see the change that I've made there, but it hasn't actually applied to these roofs yet because we haven't told it to flow through yet. So all we need to do is go to the coverings menu and choose the option to update styles. If you have an element selected, it'll just update the selected element, otherwise it'll do the entire project, which is what it's asking us here. So we hit OK, and it will just search for any coverings that match the styles that have been updated and make those changes. So you can see it's gone through and blitzed these to change them to what we modified it to before. We could jump in and go edit and say, actually, I do want those to be colorful after all. That was a bad choice to make them not bright. So we can go in there, change those back and hit save. That'll change the one that we had selected, obviously, but not everything else. So then we can just go update styles again and push that change through to any other placed instances of that style. So that will update for us. And the same applies with walls as well. So if I select these two walls and let's set them both to use shiplap grooved. So we can apply that change. We see shiplap grooved over both of them, and then we can go through and make the change to the style and have that update as well. So we'll go edit here. We will add a surface override to make them a different color so we can see that easily. We'll also change the spacing. So we can see that easily. Oh, no we won't. Let's go random. And what else? Let's rotate it so that we can easily see the difference as well. So we'll have them run vertically. Let's save that. Hit OK. And it will apply that change on this wall, obviously, and then we'll go through and push it through to everywhere else that is in use. And this one will update as well. So it makes it nice and easy. It's kind of similar to the Keynotes tool in that way, in that you can make changes whenever you want to the actual style, and it will push that change through to everywhere else that you are using that style. And this will apply with any of the parts of the coverings as well. So if you modified the way trims work, you can update styles and it will push those through as well and that sort of thing. So that is the styles in the coverings tool. As I said before, if you're not interested in using styles in any way, you don't have to use the styles. Just if you ever find that all of the fields are grayed out, the reason why is because you are locked to a style. And if you don't want to do that, you can just hit the cancel style and unlock button. And now you don't have to use styles at all. You don't even need to know they exist. You can just keep going. So you don't have to use them if you don't want to use them at all. All right, the last two parts of the coverings that I wanted to look at are the other two types of coverings that we can do, which are slab and column coverings. So the slab covering, there are two different slab coverings actually. I'll just select this slab here, and we will go to the CI Tools Coverings menu and we'll choose slab coverings. And you can see the options. We've got an old item in here for migration purposes, but the two new ones that we have available are the decking and precast options. Apologies to anyone from Australia watching this for my pronunciation of the word decking as well. All right, so this one will do what it sounds like. It's going to apply these planks all the way across it, and we can define the grooves. If we choose to have square or round grooves, we can add the dimensions. You can see there's probably a bewildering amount of dimensions shown on this, but they do make sense. So we've got the radiuses and the width of the gaps and that sort of thing, and then set out from the edge, depth, etc. So we can define how all of those work. Or we could just choose a flat profile, in which case we don't have to we don't have to worry about the grooves on top, and we can still modify the grooves that are on the bottom as well. So we can go through and set these up the way that we want. Again, similarly to the wall and roof coverings, we can define the building material as well, and we can also apply a surface override to the building material if we want to as well, which I don't want to do in this case, but the option is there if you do want to. So we set this up the way that we want it to work. I'm going to put the reeded one back on actually because it looks cooler in 3D. I'll hit OK, and then it's just going to apply that so we get 3D boards placed all the way over the top of our slab. So you can see that reeded profile running across the top there, and also the grooves in the bottom. And because this is all actual 3D data, if we cut a section through, you'll see the actual shape of those, which contributes again to one of the big useful parts of the coverings tool, which is that it will save you on detailing later. You don't have to detail all of those boards there or anything like that. You can just cut a section through and it's already done for you. So that is the decking type. And if I jump to my ground floor view, you'll be able to see the decking here. If I select it, you'll see that we have this fairly easy to spot kind of arrow shape here, and we can move the hotspots here to adjust the angle of the boards. So we could go around to 45-ish degrees there. And if I jump back to 3D, you'll see that they are running across at 45 degrees instead of what we had. So you can modify those to work however in whatever direction you want there, and then define the actual settings of the boards in the settings here. Took a little while for some reason. And similarly to the wall and roof coverings, this is tracing the shape of the slab as well. So if you modify the shape of the slab later, the decking will follow that as you go. The other slab accessory that we had is for the bottom instead. So we're going to go back to coverings, slab coverings, and this time we'll choose the precast slab. There's a couple of options for the type of precast to use for this one. So we can say, let's go Unispan or Interspan here. We can set the building materials for both of the elements of it in that case. We could do some T's. Let's go with a double T. So we choose that. We can define the dimensions of the parts here, and then we can just hit OK, and it will apply that covering underneath that slab. It's going into the ground in this case, which is unfortunate, but you can see the shape when I select it there. There we go, you can see the full slab covering there, so they run all the way across. We've got a little bit of a mitre there where the slab changes, so you can see it changing to an edge in the middle there, and then it continues on toward the edge. And again, because it's just tracing the shape of the slab, if you modify the shape of the slab, this will follow. So this was the double T, so you can see we get our two T's and then a stop, and then the second part continues on along there. So that's the slab coverings. And then the other type of covering, the last type of covering, is the column covering. So if I grab one of these, you can go to CA Tools, Coverings, Column Coverings, and there are 3 of these available. Obviously you don't often want to do one of these, so they're probably less used, but if you do come to the point where you do want to do one, this can make it nice and easy for you. So we have a column fluting, which you can see in the 3D view here. So we can choose how this works. There's not particularly many options as opposed to the other coverings in this one, but we can choose how detailed we want it to display, where the offset for the fluting piece should be, and then the dimensions of it as well here. And again, we can define the building material and override. So we can set this up the way that we want and hit OK, and then it will place that fluting around our column, and as usual, it will follow the shape and size of the column. If you move the column, the cladding will go with it, etc. When you select it, you also get some dynamic hotspots, which will allow you to modify the top and base widths graphically, if you want to do that as well. So that is backwards, but if we do the bottom ones, you can get that effect there as well. So that's a fluted column. We also have a column footing, which will just apply a footing to the column. You can choose between round or rectangular, and not many other options beside, and just hit OK and it'll put a footing on there. Just a nice and easy way of doing those. And then the last one is the column wrap. So this will obviously allow you to put a wrap around the column. We've got settings for attributes and display options and stuff, but most of the settings are in here. So we choose how we want it to be wrapped. We can have a circular wrap, for instance, or a cut rectangle, or as many edges as you want. We do an octagonal one. And it will do, it'll draw that shape, and then we can choose how the top and bottom parts work. So the bottom shape is a convex curve. We can switch that to concave, for instance, and then we can make the top one a fillet. That will give us that effect. We can make this one just a rebate on the bottom. We can choose where the offset works from here, and define the dimensions, and then also define the surface material. And that will go in there. Let's cut the bottom off there, but that's visible there. So that's the 3 type of column coverings that you can do. The other thing you may have noticed about the column coverings is that they don't have building materials associated with them at the moment. We didn't think that most people would want to do that for footings and wraps. If you do have a use case for that, I'll be interested to hear it, and we can add that into the tool, but at the moment those 2 don't, but the other covering types do, including the column fluting. But yeah, I'm just going to quickly pause and see if we've got any questions, and if not, then we can finish up. All right, looks like no questions for today. So we'll finish up now, but if you do think of any other questions that you had that you want to ask, please just send those through to our support desk by emailing nz.support@centralinnovation.com. If you don't already have the coverings tool and you want to give it a try, just head over to myci.centralinnovation.com/free trial and you can sign up for an account there and get a 30-day trial. There's no restriction to the trial in terms of functionality. It's fully featured. It just will stop working after 30 days. If you decide that you don't want to buy after that as well, all of your coverings will still display on your model. It's not going to break everything if you don't choose to actually purchase. So you can do that without having to worry. You can try it out without having to worry that it's going to destroy your model or anything. But yeah, that's all I had for today. Thanks for your time, everyone, and I'll catch you at the next one.